This is Rating Descending.
where we watch IMDb's Worst 250 movies so you do not have to.
I'm Michelle St. Clair.
I'm Abigail Ward.
And this week we watched The Fog. A thick mist full of vengeful spirits haunts a prosperous island town off the coast of Oregon as its inhabitants try to learn their town's dark secret in order to stop it. Let's watch. Hey. We got a guest this week. We got Esther Fwati.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi.
I know you because you were the producer of No Ordinary Love, great web
Yes.
series that I keep plugging on here.
Yes, thank you.
Have you been? Tell us about that. Tell us about you.
I've been good. No Ordinary Love has been good. It's been just over a year since that came out. And honestly, working
We've been trying to get you on this for ages.
for a little while. But working with Michelle on that project was just, I literally tell everyone, she was such a godsend and our series would not have turned out how it was without her. So
Thank
been
you.
great.
That's so sweet.
it's the truth, honestly.
That's so sweet. I mean, I loved working on it. That's why I keep talking about it so much. It's one thing that it's good, which it is, but it's also that I really liked getting to work on it, even though there was times where it was fucking exhausting, as any sort of indie project is.
I mean, for any listeners that want to watch the show, like, what's the premise of No Ordinary Love?
That's a great question. Do you want me to go through it, Esther? Or do you want to?
Yeah, you can go through it.
So it starts with a breakup between these two people, and then months later, at the wedding of his sister, she emerges for having not seen each other for that. I think it's 7 months.
Yep.
And so there's that immediate tension. She never gave a reason. So there's this sort of like unresolved lack of resolution to it. They're both still a little hurt and stuff. She's showing up with a new boyfriend.
Uh-huh.
Meanwhile, his sister, the one whose very wedding it is, has disappeared. Where is
Oh.
she? She's taken off and run. It's great. It's fun. It's like very
Alright.
K-drama inspired. It's yeah.
I love that. Do you love K-dramas, Esther? Is that what you're drawing off of?
Yes, definitely. I was going to ask, have you guys seen a lot of K-drama? Are you into K-drama? Because the series is 100% K-drama inspired.
I unfortunately haven't. Like, it's definitely something that I'm missing in my life. It's something I've always meant to get around to. There's just so much to watch, and I feel like I can barely like catch up with anything that people close to me are asking me to watch. But I'm not familiar enough with K-drama. What's the trope in a K-drama? Like, what kind of stuff do you expect to see in a K-drama?
Everything dramatic. Like, it's melodrama. That's pretty much the best way to describe it. Everything is heightened. Everything is exaggerated. And the cornier, the better. Like, it's great.
Yeah.
You've got the
Love it.
slow motion, the big dramatic kisses. Someone always has to get hit by a car, and they always have to end up with amnesia, like typical episode.
There is a
stuff.
lot of amnesia.
So,
I watched a whole bunch of them. I watched like 4 or 5 in prep for No Ordinary Love. And they were like, I wasn't expecting them to be bad or anything. But I was expecting it to just be like, I'm watching this for research. But after watching the first one, I was like, no, these are great. I'm having such a good time watching them.
and it's such an escape.
Yeah, it's really got such an escapist quality to it. It's because it's so heightened and because it's so like operatic, you know, it almost feels like fantasy in genre, you know, it's escapist in that way. It's so ridiculous, but also so like earnest.
I've really got to get around to more of it. I'm inspired.
Do you remember, Esther, which was the one? I remember I watched What's Wrong with Secretary Kim.
Oh, yes.
And then I watched a handful of others, but there was one that I really, really liked, and I'm struggling to remember the name of it right now.
Do you remember what the plot was?
I remember they were like fighting. The girl was then like, it was like them when they were teenagers. They went to like a fight or something. And then years later, one of them was like an announcer, which I found out was like a particular job in South Korea that's different than just like a host or whatever. And he was then like sort of washed out a little as a fighter, but they were then trying to motivate him to do it again.
Yes, one of my favorites. It's called Fight My Way.
Yes, Fight My Way. Fight My Way was so good.
Oh my gosh. It's like a love letter to the end of your 20s.
Yeah.
And the dreams that you thought you would have, where you thought you'd be in life. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Oh my God. I would recommend anyone of like, whether you're fans of K-dramas or not, watch Fight My Way. It was a good time.
I would definitely say watch that one of those first.
What have you been doing since No Ordinary Love?
So basically since No Ordinary Love, I've been, in terms of the series, been pursuing sort of what's next for the series. We've had a couple of options and talks with Screen Australia about possibly doing a second season on YouTube. That was definitely part of the plan. But now we're looking to do something a bit bigger. Can't say too much, but it's mostly in the path of like a rebooted version. And so we've been in talks with a couple of people about that, something that's like maybe 10 episodes, 30 minutes. So yeah, just in the like early talking stages of that.
No, what you should do is you should go into immense detail so we can know, but we'll just censor like a good 5-minute portion of this episode. It'll be one long beep. It'll just be like, so beep.
Yeah.
That'll work.
Rating descending exclusive.
Yeah.
And at the end, just us going, wow!
That's amazing. No, that's really exciting.
Yeah, it's good because I think melodrama in Australia can sometimes be looked down upon. But I think it's rising internationally. People are really drawn to K-dramas, like all sorts of people. And I think it's filling that gap of just the more wholesome, escapist, rom-com, romance drama content. So yeah, it's good to know that people are interested.
It's fascinating because a similar thing happens with horror, both in film but also in like other mediums, like in books and stuff. Like the publishing industry is held together by how popular romance novels are. Both like sexy but also not even particularly sexy, just like romantic novels are.
Yeah.
And like we're starting in Australia to lean more into funding horror instead of just having our horror funded internationally. And absolutely capitalizing on that kind of like melodrama romance that like people love consuming that, and people love spending money on it, and people love watching it because it's good. It's entertaining, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's so awesome to hear about. Well, things, you know, speaking of things that are less awesome to hear about, this week we watched The Fog. Esther, have you seen the original?
No, I just found out there was an original like 30 minutes ago.
Yeah. I also haven't seen the original at all. Did you choose to watch The Fog, and what stood out to you about The Fog?
I did. I wanted to watch it because of Tom Welling. So I grew up on Smallville.
Smallville. Yeah.
Smallville. And so I was like, I actually haven't seen him in anything other than Smallville. This might be nice to watch.
It's so weird. In the last episode that we did, which is like The Legend of Chun-Li, the girl from Smallville, Lana Lang, the girl who played Lana Lang, also popped up in that, and I was like, we're just having a Smallville reunion on Rating Descending at the moment. But I also haven't seen Tom Welling in anything else. I only know him as the Smallville guy.
I looked up his Wikipedia, his IMDb for this. There's a reason you haven't seen him in much else. It's like 7 entries long.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a shame. He's talked recently. There's now every single show that ever existed has a talkback podcast, mostly from actors who haven't really done much work since.
Yeah.
This is not to knock that cottage industry that's emerged. It's more that I haven't listened to Tom Welling's podcast of Smallville, But he has it, and he's talked a lot about how much he enjoyed being on that set and stuff, and it's nice seeing the sort of like renaissance of it.
Yeah.
I'm sure he did. I mean, he played a hunky Superman, that's fun, and you get to revisit it and be like, I was so hot back then, and at the height of my career. I would also want to do a podcast about me being the lead in a show when I was hunky.
Literally.
But that's a really noble reason to choose it, Esther.
Yeah, exactly. I've watched his podcast, and basically it's always them telling about how like they were overworked and like nearly died, or
yikes,
or like were abused. Yeah, it's like all of the secret tea they spill on podcasts.
So you watch the show for the melodrama, but then you listen to the podcast for the real drama.
That's it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really get in it.
Oh my God, by the way, just you saying One Tree Hill, that's also a nostalgia trip. I loved that show back in the day, and I also loved that they used the I I don't want to be anything other than what I've been trying to be lately, as the theme song. It was a vibe.
You fucking love that song.
I love that
You bring up that
song.
song all the time.
It's a great song. I really do.
I feel like they put it on the map.
Yeah, for sure.
Fully.
For sure. But yeah, I watched the original because the original was done by John Carpenter, you know, like The Thing and They Live, both of which are some of my favorite movies. So this was just like one of his that I hadn't gone back to watch yet. It's pretty good. I mean,
Is it?
It's John Carpenter.
Yeah.
So it's pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, it's... I can see why it has a cult status. It's pretty good. Okay. I can see why it's not the same sort of breakthrough as Halloween is, in that it's a little slower. It's got a little it's got the same problem this movie does, and then it's kind of got like 4 different A stories.
Well, is it? Like, all I know about it is that it also has Jamie Lee Curtis.
It's Jamie Lee Curtis.
But is it the same plot and the same idea that there's like these old colonial guys had destroyed a ship and killed a guy, and the ghost of that guy was coming back to attack people in the town? Is that kind of still the same plot?
Yeah, pretty much. Like it's still on Antonio Island. It's still the Elizabeth Dane was sunk by the original founders of the town. It's still now this fog is rolling in, and inside of the fog are sort of spooky ghost pirate things. You know, it's a lot more fleshed out in the remake in a way that I don't think is always helpful for the remake. You know, like I'll get into it, but all the leper colony stuff isn't really in the original.
Okay.
It is, but it's more like there's such a focus on it in the remake, and in the original it's like a bunch of scenes with the priest just like reading out the diary that he finds at the very beginning of the movie, just like detailing it.
Well, here's the thing about this film. I loved the vibe. I loved the atmosphere. I was like, I mean, maybe I'll enjoy the original because I really liked the misty town and finding diaries buried in sand. I'm like, some of this stuff is sick and cool, and I wish I was part of this world. But then the movie just on top of that sucked. So if we could just replace a bunch of parts of the film, I really would have enjoyed it. That's what I say about everything in this list. I'm
you.
like, yeah, thank you.
No, I am. All of that, like the mystery of it, all of that was really interesting. But then everything else was like, just where were they going with it?
I don't know. And the actors were shocking. Like they had Maggie Grace in it. And Maggie Grace is from Lost. She's Shannon in Lost. And let me tell you, she was terrible in Lost. And I don't think it's her fault. I think it was also the writer's fault. Because
watching this, I think it might have been.
Well, maybe. Well, this is what they gave her. They were like, here's your character, Shannon. You're like really rude. And you get like really like overwhelmed and overreactive, and you yell a lot at people, and you have zero depth. And she's like, great, I'm running with it. And then she's there for all of 2 seasons before they kill her off because they're like, we don't know what to do with this character. It turns out we don't know how to write this girl. So I feel like she got a bit mishandled in Lost, but then I did watch this and I was like, maybe not. Who knows?
Mayhaps. Let me just get into the key details so that we can, get more specific, but get the listeners on board with what the fuck we're talking about.
Okay.
So it was directed by Rupert Wainwright, who for ages I thought might have been related to Loudon Wainwright.
Yeah, well, doesn't Loudon Wainwright have a son called Rufus Wainwright?
Yes.
Yeah.
As far as I can tell, not related to each other. Not related to Rufus or Loudon Wainwright.
Right, okay.
But he did direct The Blank Check. Did you guys ever see that movie? Little kid runs into a bank robber, and then in his haste, he's like trying to give him some money, but he forgets to put the amount of money, leaving it as a blank check. The kid, being just like a lonely kid, doesn't understand how checks work, where you need to have the amount in his account, and he photoshops it to say $1 million in the amount, not knowing that this guy has just robbed a bank with the help of the guy who runs the bank.
Yeah.
And so manages to cash the check because the bank guy mistakes him for working with the robber. Right. And so then this little kid in the 2000s suddenly has $1 million, and what does he do? He spends all of it.
Nice.
That's kind of the plot.
That's the whole thing.
Yeah, it's like not great, but it was on TV a lot as a kid, and I really enjoyed it.
Sounds akin to like Richie Rich, like the movie Richie Rich, where it's just him in a mansion spending a bunch of money, and you're like, wish it was me. There was a real genre of films like that in the mid 2000s of like Americans being like, imagine if you, a 10-year-old, had $1 million, and us were like we were all like, wow, it's amazing.
What if you happened upon money?
Yeah.
What
But to be
would you
honest,
do?
it still entertains me. I still like thinking about what would happen if I happened upon $10 million. So
Yeah, it's a great thought experiment. What would I do? I don't know why, but for so long, I always thought, like, what if I had 4 million? I don't know why 4,
Very specific.
but it just felt like a good, like, you can quarter it off. It's like, well, then 1 is for a house.
Yeah.
1 is for maybe a house for my mum. Then $1 million, I gotta save it.
Of course.
But then the last $1 million, I could make a movie. You know,
Yeah,
like you can
yeah,
really
yeah,
siphon
yeah.
it.
fully, I think that for me, it's not 4 million. For me, I often think, what if I got $20 million, but I could either choose to have all of it in one hit, or I could have $1 million a year over 20 years. But if I took all of it in one hit, I would lose a quarter of it. Because I heard that in America, if you win $20 million, for instance, they'll be like, you can have all of it, or you'll lose like a quarter of it if you take it all now. Or you can have it in stages and get the whole thing. And everyone takes the whole thing right now and loses a quarter of it. It makes no sense to me.
Well-
but everyone will take the 15 million and not wait for
Right.
the rest.
But if you have 15 million in like an investment account or
Yeah.
whatever, you now don't need to work.
I know, but then
Yeah.
there's also these people that take the 15 million and then they accidentally burn through it because they don't know how to manage money. And I know I don't know how to manage money. So I will take little bits of it at a time, and I will figure out what to do with $1 million first.
Because then at least you have the
Anyway,
trickle in.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's I appreciate that that's self-aware.
Yeah. Do you ever have this, Esther? Do you ever think like, if I got this certain amount of money, how would I spend it?
What would I do? I think, oh my gosh, I think I'm a bit like you. I would be like, tell no one. Not a soul from my family.
don't tell
to
anyone.
begin with.
No.
Invest in maybe like a financial planner or something like that. But I would be tempted to just like, put it away in savings and pretend like I don't have it. Like,
Yeah. Like continue your life as
Yeah,
normal, and then
yeah.
if anything pops up, you'll be like, oh wait, I've just got this $10 million in my
I'm
bank
a
account.
$10 million millionaire. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Start like every night out with friends when they're like, oh, I got to resolve the bill. You're like, you just like pay for it. And you're like, oh, I just covered the whole thing. And they're like, whoa, Michelle, where did you get that money? And I'm like, oh, just happened upon it.
The sad thing is though, like, you're smart, Esther, in that you shouldn't tell anyone that you win money, because a lot of the time people's families will come to you and like your family will end up asking you for money, which is fine. But then a lot of people end up losing a lot of the money because they feel like they're pressured by people to give them money. And then like, there's this really sad case in America of a guy that won $20 million. He took the $15 million and then everyone found out he was a millionaire. So he was like bailing people out all the time. And then finally this woman heard about his wealth and she conned him and ended up killing him for his money.
Oh my
So you got to be careful. I know that could be you, Esther. Don't get killed, okay?
This is
Be
why
alive.
I will tell no one. Like,
Exactly.
why it came up, because I think I was watching a TikTok and she was like, this is the first thing you need to do when you win the lottery. And I was like, okay, yes, I'm listening. And
Yeah.
she was like,
Yeah.
tell no one, don't tell your family.
Yeah.
Then you want to, like, if you want to be able to give money to your family, you want to put it in like a trust or something that has boundaries to it so that they're not going to take advantage. But yeah, I was like, taking down notes as if I was going to be winning $20 million on the weekend, but it was good advice.
Oh, well, my fingers are crossed for you either way. You got to sign up for the 60 million Super Bowl, whatever it is, this weekend.
We know that you'll be fucking prepared.
Yeah.
You're ready for it.
But we'll
I'll
also
bring
know
out my
that Esther will
binder.
never tell us.
Yeah.
Yeah. We also know that you'll never tell us if you win, so we'll have to really interrogate
Oh no,
you.
Esther already won.
That's why I haven't
the
said
thing,
it's
I won't
long
add
my
this.
plan, Because secretly I have the 20 million in savings.
So this was starring, as we said, Tom Welling, Maggie Grace, Selma Blair, who I think is the highlight of the movie.
I love Selma Blair.
Same, yeah.
She's great. She's got great vibes.
Blake was played by Raid Sebedzija. He's Serbian. Well, controversial. I looked through his Wikipedia. He's Yugoslavian. He's a Serb who lived in Croatia and over time has changed from publicly saying, I'm Yugoslavian, I'm Croatian, I'm Serbian, I wish kind of it was Yugoslav again, so hey, look, he's South Slavian, but returning actor DeRay Davis, who was the friend, what was his name? It was like
Scooter? Scooter?
Why was I going to say like Antoine?
It's Antoine. Is it Skipper?
It's Spooner.
We were so
Spooner.
close. Yeah.
He was in Meet the Blacks, our second episode.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
And yet he still looked familiar. The budget for this was 18 million and it made 46.2.
Oh.
So it made money.
Okay.
It made money.
All right. That's rare for us on this podcast.
It didn't make much money.
Yeah.
But it made money.
I think that was in part to Tom Welling.
Yeah, honestly.
I feel like he drew the audience.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had a lot of star power because I assume this was around the same time as Smallville, right? Like it was right at the peak of his Smallville career.
I think this would have been towards the end of it. This was 2005. When did Smallville go until? It always went until later than I thought.
Was it 2011?
Yeah, looking it up now.
No, that's too far.
Oh my God.
What?
You're right. It's 2011.
What?
Yeah.
2011 still had a season of Smallville? That's crazy.
Oh, I thought it was earlier as well.
It went for a long time.
Right.
Oh my God. Okay, yeah. So this would have been, right in the middle of it.
Wow.
Here's the overview. On Antonio Island, the residents prepared to commemorate the town's 4 founders with a statue. Meanwhile, one of the founders' descendants, Nick Castle, is on a boating trip and accidentally disturbs wreckage from an old shipwreck. He later runs into his old girlfriend, Elizabeth Williams, also a descendant of another founder, who in turn gets gifted a pocket watch that came ashore from the wreck. Additionally, Stevie Wayne, also a descendant, is the town's DJ and lighthouse operator whose son brings home a hairbrush from the wreck. She hears from the weather station operator, Dan, that a fog is blowing into town, despite the wind suggesting that it shouldn't be able to. In the fog, Nick's friend Spooner and several of his friends aboard Nick's boat get attacked by mysterious entities, killing all but Spooner. Elizabeth tries to investigate the killings to clear Spooner's name, and in response to strange dreams she has. After being attacked herself, she finds an old journal from one of the founders. There she discovers that the 4 founders built the town using goods and money stolen from the clipper ship, the Elizabeth Dane, a ship carrying a large amount of people suffering from leprosy, where the captain, Blake, had purchased half the island to use as a leper colony. The founders robbed and killed the ship's inhabitants by lighting it in a fire, hoping to keep their island safe, and kept the deed a secret. The next night, the fog returns, with the Elizabeth Dane's ghostly passengers killing whoever they come across, but mostly focusing on the descendants of the 4 founders. Eventually, and this is where I got confused, Elizabeth confronts the ghosts, where the spectral Blake takes her in his arms and kisses her, because she is a dead ringer for her long-lost love. Elizabeth turns into a ghost and leaves with the fog as Nick watches confused, and then I added me too. And that's sort of the end.
That was such a good end, though.
Let me tell you, in the original, she's not a ghost. She's not Nick's ex either. She's just there. It's Jamie Lee Curtis is visiting the island and gets wrapped into it. She does not turn into a ghost at the end of the movie.
It's so weird. He forces that kiss on her and you're like, this is odd. And then as she starts turning into a ghost, you're like, this is worse.
Well, because it doesn't mean anything.
Oh my gosh. And then Tom Welling's just watching like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
She's a ghost now.
I guess he took my girl.
I would feel like, what is going on?
But to be fair, I wouldn't know what to do. Like, I would also just be looking at it being like, okay.
You know what I would do? I would check myself into an insane asylum. I would be like, this is it. My concept of reality is done. It's over. It's quashed. I have to check myself in somewhere.
Literally.
We talked about this on the podcast. Okay, so Esther, pitch. What would you do genuinely if you definitively saw a ghost, right? Because we talked about like what we would actually do, and the answer ranged from not telling anyone to trying to find a way to communicate the reality of it.
What would you do?
Oh my gosh. I would freak out.
Yeah.
I would honestly try to find like some holy water. Try to figure out, is it friendly? Is it fur? If it's fur, I'm like, no, I'm getting out. Alerting the world, you're being like, believe me, I'm not a crazy person.
You're so right. I never considered, though, the potential for it to be a Casper the Friendly Ghost situation and that the ghost is actually nice. Yeah, no, you're so right.
But that's one thing from the fog that I didn't get. I feel like they all were just like, okay, there's something in the fog, run. I'm like, why are you not freaking out? they just kind of were like, something's trying to kill us, as if they knew. That boggled me.
They were acting as if it was just like, oh, this is like, oh, there's a shark out there.
Yeah.
There's a dangerous fog. Yeah, okay,
this is
sure.
normal. A creepy, and also is the fog. You know how the fog was touching like things, and like that woman, it travels up her hands and it travels up her body. Is it leprosy? You know how she's rotting and she's like, "Ah!" and then everything's crackling. I was like, is that kind of meant to be linked to the leprosy they all had?
Which is not how leprosy works.
No, but it seemed like it was like eating away at the flesh in the way that, you know, leprosy can make your flesh decay. I was like, is that what they're trying to do?
It was confusing because they all get killed in different ways.
They
But
do.
in ways that, again, not in the original, is implied to be like recreating the ways that some of them are killed in the original Elizabeth Dane thing. Like the knife in the eye.
Oh, the knife was so funny when the fog flung it at the guy. I have to say that was pretty good. That was too funny.
The defenestration in this movie is through the roof, by the way. Every character gets thrown through a window at some point.
What about the priest at the end that gets killed by the shards of glass whirring around him? They slice through him slow-mo style.
Tornado of glass only for 3 shards to just sort of calmly slice through him.
Very slowly.
Very slowly.
The deaths were odd. They were, as you say, they were always different and strange, and like they never married up. They never had a cohesive, this is how we're gonna get you. It's just the fog comes and they're like, who knows what's gonna happen now.
And then people would die. So like, was it Maggie Grace's mum when she got taken, and then they were just like, no.
Yeah.
Like, they were kind of just like, oh, well, move on.
I think she's
like, wait.
Yeah, fully. I think she's like, no. And then Tom Welling holds her back and she's like, all right.
All right, yeah. And she just goes with him. I'm like, girl, your mom's dead. No, okay.
Well, it doesn't matter because she's a ghost anyway, you know? The ghosts don't care. They don't have mothers.
Did she know she was a ghost?
That's my question. Is that like when she realizes at the end, because she smiles at him and I'm like, was the whole thing a deep play? Was his high school girlfriend a ghost the whole time? Was she planted? I don't get it. I really don't get it.
But she is real though, because she has a mum that we meet and they used to date, right?
This is true. Yes,
that's true.
So she's a real woman. Is she a reincarnate? It doesn't. You know what? It's not good. That's the answer. It's just not very good.
No, it's not.
But the movie starts in such a wild way because the intro, which I wrote down, has big Jumanji vibes. We see like sort of the flashback of the original Fog. And then we suddenly get like Sugar We're Going Down Swinging by Fall Out Boy over the horniest DJ we've ever heard in our lives.
Yeah. Oh my God. I couldn't believe they started with a Fall Out Boy song. I was like, this is not the vibe I thought we were going to get in this opening scene. But yeah, Selma Blair was the horniest DJ I've ever come across.
She did a great job, but she did spend the whole time.
Where we do different music that I want to listen to. This one is Fall Out Boy. Like it was wild.
That's spot on.
It's so spot on. And then we're so intro to Maggie Grace, who I for a while thought, well, did either of you ever see Scream Queens?
No.
Yes, with the Roberts girl, right?
Yeah. Because there's that one bit that I think is in the first episode that I know it's satire. I know it's a parody, so it's technically allowed to do this. But it has that one fucking scene where the girl orders coffee and she's like, I'd like a pumpkin spice latte. And there's like, well, your name? And she's like, Senorita Awesome. I'm just kidding. I would never order something like that. And it's like, oh my, shut the fuck up. They made the most annoying girl in the world. And I know it's a bit. I know they're doing a bit, but I still hate it.
Yeah, I know the exact scene you're referring to. I've seen it online.
Yeah.
And I know it's satire as well, but it's so painful. It's painful to get through.
Yeah. It's some of the bits of this movie, by the way, are crazy. When Spooner is on the boat, like during the first attack, it starts going. All of the, the friend and the 2 hot ladies that they bring onto the boat, like they look at all the gauges and then the glass explodes in their faces, which means they scream, if not just because glass has exploded on their faces. And Spooner waits not a single moment to go, stop screaming, it'll get nothing done. Stop this.
Stop the
Absolutely
insanity.
crazy. Yeah. I will say it is remarkable how long it takes in this movie for anything interesting to happen. Mm-hmm. You're like an hour in before really anything goes on at all.
There's a lot of setup.
It really is a lot of setup. But then when stuff does start happening, you get what was for me one of the most confusing bits, which was
Did you just say bitch?
I didn't mean to.
Wow.
I get the most confusing bitch.
That's problematic. Okay. Wow. We're all women here.
Oh, no, I'm going to get cancelled. The Council of Women are cancelling me.
And not on this episode, not the fog.
No, not the fog.
The fog was the last straw. I couldn't tolerate Michelle's misogyny anymore.
But it's the bit where Tom Welling and Maggie Grace finally start doing something and they see a ghost on the road. And so they start like driving right towards it. And then when he hits the ghost, it's not like the ghost splats.
Yes.
Why is the ghost made of goo? Why is
like
the ghost made of
nothing is
goo?
consistent.
No, it's like, are they made of fog sometimes? Are they physical sometimes? Now they're a bag of goo. It's
And again, even their killing, it's not consistent. There is nothing consistent about the fog. I mean, if I was in this world and I saw the fog approaching, I'm like, I don't know what could happen now. I could be like, I don't know, I could be bombed by the fog. I don't know what they're going to throw at me.
they're going to either throw you out a window or they'll hook you or they'll have a nearby explosion.
Or a tornado of glass.
Or
Or they'll give me strange disease black thing.
or you're going to melt.
Yeah.
Or they'll just splat.
Or the splat. I think I would, out of all of those, I'd prefer to not be splattered. I think I'd like the tornado of glass. That just sounds
Tag
cool.
yourself. I'm splat.
Yeah. Yeah, you're splat. You've got splat energy.
Oh my gosh. I think the only person who responded appropriately out of all people on that island was that little boy.
Yes.
Every time he saw the fog, he was out of there.
Yeah, fully.
Every time.
Can I say, I'm really glad Selma Blair didn't die in the fog. I really thought she was dead in that scene where like she crashes into the river in her car. I was like, she's dead and she's got a son, but she made it out alive.
It's interesting. In the original, she's played by Adrienne Barbeau, and instead of it being a whole thing of she crashes and then has to get out, which I think was one of the closest bits of to like actually having a tense scene that we got.
Yeah.
Okay.
Instead, she tries to escape the ghosty boys by going to the top of the lighthouse, but then they sort of like pin her down as the third act is totally different in that in it they figure out that there's like almost like a riddle in the old notes that they realize means that the treasure and money was melted down into a cross that's in the church. And so then the father, being, you know, the son, I think, of one of the original conspirators, grabs this heavy fucking cross and walks up to the head ghost and like gives it to him, and they're both like blasting with light and the cross is like glowing and stuff before the Tom Welling character, who is not the ex-boyfriend of the Elizabeth in the original, it like pulls him off. And that's why then Adrienne Barbeau, having been cornered on the lighthouse, like now the ghosts vanish and stuff, and like it's kind of rad in the original. In this, it's just they kind of stop. That's right.
Yeah.
Well, Elizabeth turns into a ghost. Yeah.
So the ghosts were just looking for Elizabeth the whole time?
I guess.
Was that,
I think so.
Because once they found her, they stopped.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's kind of beautiful, guys. The real gold was the women we love the whole time. It's love. The gold was love.
The real booty was love.
The real pirate booty.
Wow.
The real booty was love.
The real booty was that booty.
That was the tagline of this film. Such a dumb
The
film.
fog.
I found it really. Yeah. I just found it so hard to pay attention to this film at the same time. I was like, what's going on? There was a lot of like ominous conversations and people inferring things, and I feel like I was struggling to pay attention to this film.
I do think the gag of there's like 5 or 6 different times that we see the TV, and every time it's like kind of spooky. It's like Jeopardy, and it's like, what is the way that this person was killed? And they'll be like, what is strangulation? Or, you know, I forget how Jeopardy works, but you get the idea. It's always like spooky. I think that's kind of funny. That's kind of good. That's not a bad bit. I mean, hey, do you guys want to hear some trivia?
I would love some trivia.
IMDb trivia.
All right. So here is all of these are sourced from either IMDb or Wikipedia, but usually IMDb.
Okay.
Usually IMDb. The original film's makers, John Carpenter and Deborah Hill, expressed interest in remaking the original film on that film, so The Fog's DVD commentary. John Carpenter described his involvement thusly: I come in and say hello to everybody, go home.
Damn. Wait, with the beginning of that, you said they were talking about remaking the film?
Yeah, so in the commentary of that they were doing for the DVD of the original Fog, he and Deborah Hill, the producer of the original, and also at the time, previously, his girlfriend and stuff, they dated for a while, they expressed interest in doing a remake. And having watched the original, I get why, because it's a real mood piece, but there's a lot of like loose edges. It feels really fertile to do a remake of it, as well as like with the original movie, apparently they had to reshoot like a third of it because when they did it, John Carpenter said something along the line of like, in my heart, I knew I had made a bad film.
Oh.
And so they added in a bunch of scenes and did a bunch of extra stuff, and it really makes it work.
Yeah.
So they'd wanted to do a remake, but by the time it was actually being made, he and Deborah Hill had basically been so pushed out, and that's why he said like, on the remake, his involvement was to just come in and say hi and then go home.
Fuck.
Oh. Wow.
Oh, I thought that meant like he didn't want to be involved, but I didn't realize he wanted to be involved and they pushed him out.
Well, I don't know 100% if they pushed him out, but he initially was the driving force between doing the remake, and by the time they're making it, he's barely fucking involved. So I don't know whether he's pushed out. Maybe they like changed story direction and weren't going to do what he wanted, and he was like, fuck it, whatever.
Yeah.
I feel like that could be it, because the story felt like it had so much potential, but then it just went rogue.
Yeah, I think some of the best parts of the movie, this contradicts what I said earlier, but some of the best parts of the movie are where they're expanding on some of the stuff set in the original. I think that stuff kind of works, you know, there's more clarity on the Elizabeth Dane, there's more sort of flow to all of that sort of stuff. It's just that then none of the rest of it makes any fucking sense.
Yeah.
Deborah Hill died 1 week before filming began.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
How old was she?
Oh my god, I'm so irresponsible.
Catching you out with questions you didn't expect.
Oh my god, you fucking got me. You fucking got me. The goal of this podcast is to trick me out of successfully.
It's to embarrass you, especially in front of Esther. That's why I'm here.
She was 54. She died of colon cancer.
Oh, that's too young.
Yeah.
She's too young. That's very sad. And she's an incredible producer as well. So it's like a real loss for the industry and for art, as well as like a personal loss of losing someone. During early development, Julia Stiles expressed interest in the role of Elizabeth. The screenplay was subsequently tailored, the character matured, and the role expanded. When Stiles did not come aboard, Maggie Grace was immediately cast, and the character of Elizabeth was rewritten to be younger and more innocent than in previous drafts.
Right. I could see Julia Stiles in this film.
Yeah, I like her.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I think she would have worked. In the original, Elizabeth doesn't do a whole lot, and you see a lot more of the DJ of the Selma Blair, Adrienne Barbeau character, and you can tell the remnants of how they've really expanded and focused on her, because she does so much in this.
Did Jamie Lee Curtis play Elizabeth?
Yeah.
Okay.
Jamie Lee Curtis was Elizabeth. This was one of the most wild things. Fergie, vocalist Fergie of the Black Eyed Peas, was attached to play Stevie Wayne before a last-minute conflict prevented her contract from closing.
As if.
Wow.
I fucking love Fergie.
We could have had
Actress Fergie.
the loss.
Would that have made this better or worse?
I'm devastated because I fucking love Fergie. I feel like Fergie did this massive power move where in 2007 she came out with one solo album that had 5 bangers on it and then was just like, see ya, and hasn't really done one since.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed. Like the Glamorous, Fergalicious, Big Girls Don't Cry, London Bridges. It's so many hits.
Yeah.
She's given us so much.
It really was a dense album.
We got so little afterwards, but it's okay. I still appreciate her. And also I love the videos of her singing live where she'll do like cartwheels and be like, whoa!
I love that.
Whoa!
Have you seen her performing the national anthem of the United States?
No.
I haven't.
Oh my goodness. Okay, straight after this, you guys, I think it's at the basketball game. I will tell you no more. Just watch it. You will be very
Incredible.
You'll be very impressed.
This is so tantalizing. I'm so excited now to end this recording just so that I can watch that.
Well, does she get hoisted into the air? Does that happen?
It's just it's all I can say is I don't know if her team were there for her that day because somebody was lying to her backstage or something, but it's the reactions of everyone trying to keep it in. It's beautiful.
Oh my God.
Okay, I can't wait. That's going to make my day.
I've got 4 more pieces of trivia that I will, group describe as Selma Blair is the best. Selma Blair was the studio's first choice for Stevie Wayne, which is interesting knowing that Fergie was also apparently going to be involved. But it didn't say she was first choice, just that she was attached.
Yeah.
Selma Blair was the studio's first choice for Stevie Wayne, but she wasn't offered the part because Julia Stiles was still attached to play Elizabeth. Blair and Stiles has acted together twice in Down to You 2000 and A Guy Thing 2003. And the implication being, I don't think they really get along.
Oh, wow.
Blair was contacted when the role of Elizabeth went instead to Maggie Grace. Her contract closed within 48 hours, and she started shooting less than 2 weeks later.
Oh, my God. I love hearing that there might be beef between them. What happened?
Yeah, I love, apparently, she got the call, Julia Stiles isn't on it? I'm in. I'll do it. Meaning that Fergie lost out on the role.
Literally. I do like that Selma Blair ended up getting it. I feel like, for some weird reason, when I was watching it, I was like, I didn't realize that the guy that she kept calling at the lighthouse, her husband, was the father of her son. I thought they were going to do some weird twist reveal and tell us that, what's his name? Tom Welling's character was the father, and they had some kind of like chemistry, which I think was better chemistry than he had with Maggie Grace, in my opinion.
For sure, absolutely. And then you know what? That would have resolved better with the ending where Elizabeth turns into a ghost, and then it would be like, well, Tom can then go take care of his child with Selma Blair. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. If only you had actually had any part in this, Esther. I feel like anyone could have really made this film better, but oh my God.
The Fog 2024 as written by Esther Fwati.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Selma Blair did almost all of her own stunts. For her underwater scenes, she spent 12 hours in a water tank with only short surface breaks for 2 days straight.
That's impressive.
That sounds grueling. That sounds torturous, to be honest. I would not be able to do that. I'm too afraid of it.
In between takes in Vancouver, press were granted access to the set. During Selma Blair's interview, director Rupert Wainwright made a joke she didn't like. In response, Blair reached into her shirt, pulled out a rubber breast enhancement pad, flung it across the conference room at the director, deadpanning, "That's the Adrienne Barbeau part of the role."
Ooh, bad bitch.
Incredible
bitch.
move.
Fuck, she sounds great.
Sounds like she was so fucking sick of the director.
Oh my God. I wish that I'm going to start just wearing... like, what are they called again?
Breast enhancement.
Well, this just lists it as a breast enhancement pad.
I'm gonna wear breast pads so I can fling them at people from now on.
That's where you store your ammunition.
Yeah, and they're not gonna be the fabric ones. They're gonna be the silicone ones, so I ensure they're sweaty when it slaps them across the face. Yeah, it's going to be grotty.
I don't think anyone on this earth needs a breast enhancement pad less than you, Abby.
Yeah, I know. It'd look ridiculous. It would look silly.
Just Abby's giant bazongas get even more massive.
I know.
You'd pull it out and people would be like, oh my God, there's still so much left.
Yeah, it made no difference at all.
Oh, no.
This is the last piece of trivia I had. Tom Welling had... I should have read this before. Tom Welling had 3 weeks left on Smallville season 4 when he began shooting this film. Selma Blair, again, often joked that the director kept 2 cameras running during his scenes, one for The Fog and one for Smallville.
Oh. You know, a lot of the horror in the Fog reminded me of all of the horror episodes they did in Smallville. Like, same tone.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Especially when that woman was like, she was washing the dishes and then she just died.
Yeah.
The same type of animation CGI.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And again, let's stress we don't know how she died. Like, we don't know what that was. That's the problem.
It was actually unrelated to The Fog. There was a biocontaminant in her sink.
It's just her skin goes black. I don't get it.
Abby, the fog melts her. She melted.
But it didn't look like melting. Really, it didn't. She looked singed.
She disease melted.
She disease melted.
She disease melted. Come on, Abigail. Again, I think it's someone misunderstanding how leprosy works.
Maybe.
All right. Do you want to hear some reviews?
Yes, please.
This has 4% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Ooh, that's low.
It is 3.7 on IMDb. The main reviewer quote I got was from Variety. It said, interest lacks between the grisly deaths, and worse, none of the characters generate rooting interest. Mm-hmm. Which is true. I don't really care if any of them live or die. Mm-hmm. And here is an IMDb review titled A Timeless Classic by Blessed Wit de Flo. It is...
No, let's take a moment to sit in that, guys. Oh, wow. We were blessed with that flow.
We were blessed with that flow. All right. I generally refrain from leaving reviews. However, upon viewing The Fog, all I can say is, jeepers! This nail-biting masterpiece had me on the edge of my seat for the entire duration. The special effects were nothing short of spectacular, and LL Cool J, not in this movie, gave an Oscar-winning performance.
What the fuck? Why LL Cool J? Why LL Cool J?
I think they thought Spooner was LL Cool J.
No.
He doesn't look anything like LL Cool J.
He doesn't look like LL Cool J. LL Cool J is very distinct.
I have pre-ordered the special edition Blu-ray with an additional bonus disc to accompany the rest of my timeless classics. Also, my dear Janice, who the fuck is that, is purchasing the Fog machine so we can reenact our favorite scenes with family on special occasions.
That's nuts.
The Fog is a timeless classic. Be prepared to, and this is all caps, poop in your underpants though. 10 out of 10.
I'm sorry, but every film I see now, I'll be like, wow, LL Cool J's performance was amazing. I'm gonna walk out of Napoleon and I'll be like, that was epic. And LL Cool J was a standout.
Oh my God, I saw Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes recently, the new Hunger Games film. LL Cool J was so good at it.
Standout. So good.
Oh my gosh. I'm deceased. That was good.
Here's another one titled Good by Jesse D. Hunt. Mm-hmm. I love it when they leave their full name. The night I watched the movie, I had just a very difficult and long school week behind me. But I have to say it didn't cause me trouble to stay awake. Okay, girls, and maybe boys too, you have to admit Tom Welling is totally hot. I mean, look at that body. But that wasn't the most important thing. I loved Shannon in Lost, so I have to say she was putting some really good acting. The acting was good, not to say great. And I loved the story. I liked the ending because it was very surprising, and I liked the beginning because they used Sugar We're Going Down from Fall Out Boy. I could recommend it to everyone. Really good. 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
Oh, come on, Shannon from Lost. As if. This is Shannon's... Esther, have you watched Lost or seen it recently? Do you remember her in Lost?
I don't remember her in Lost, and I am one of those people who has never seen Lost.
Oh, okay.
Me
so
too,
yeah,
me too.
You
Okay,
know
good,
what?
good,
You're
good.
not missing that much because in Lost, she is also really bad. Her whole character is, again, she's a bit bitchy. And there's this bit where she sees a boy who is literally, everyone thinks he's dead. She sees him in the forest, like a hallucination, an apparition. She tells the guy that she's seeing, Saeed. She's Saeed's love interest.
Oh.
And she's like, I saw Walt. And he's like, but he's dead. And then she's like, you don't believe me. And she runs into the forest through the rain. And she's insufferable. Like, that's her whole character. And when she gets
Does the
killed,
Scream 2 run?
truly, and spoilers, she gets killed off. And I honestly think it's because the writers were like, she's no good. Like, the character, we can't fix it. She's gone.
Oh my gosh.
Here's the last review I've got titled Hehe by Bevo13678.
Is it called hair?
It's called Hehe.
Okay, I'm excited.
Good, but not as scary as the original movie where I did a wee in my pants. 10 out of 10.
What's with all this weeing and pooping?
Did you see it? I pooped all day, all night.
Look, Esther, did you poop in your pants or wee in your pants at all?
No, I did
Throughout this
not. And I hate horror. Like, that's why I wanted to watch this, because I was like, okay, I know I'll be scared. I'm not a horror person. And this was like...
Oh, you're like Michelle.
Yeah. This was funny. This was comedy.
Yeah,
I was not... Maybe I was weeing from laughing, but I was not weeing from being genuinely terrified.
Yeah.
No, not a single scary moment was here in this movie.
I did poop in my pants, but I always poop in my pants. This was no excuse, really.
This was
I've
unrelated.
done it right now. Yeah, just unrelated.
Abby,
That's all right.
You
My
do this
daily poop in my
every
pants.
single week, and it smells so bad. It's
empowering.
unbelievable.
It's empowering.
It's empowering.
Yeah.
Look, as long as you feel powerful, as long as it gets you through the recording, it's fine. I'll put up with it. Well, Esther, at the end of these, we give these a review out of 10 because even though we don't believe in necessarily rating art out of 10, IMDb does, and so it is contractually obliged in our podcast for us to rate it out of 10. So what would you say is your rating?
Look, I'm going to be generous, and I'm going to say 1 out of 10. It had potential. Yeah. The story had potential. It had me intrigued with the whole pirate history of the island, the treasure. But then it didn't commit and it didn't follow through, and that ending was just absolutely ridiculous. I can't give it anything more than a 1.
Fair. Wow. Is that generous? Because we're warped, by the way, because like at this point I'm like, wow, it was 90 minutes long and didn't contain sexual assault. It's a 7. So I think my brain is just warped by this podcast.
Well, Abby, what was your review with your warped little goo brain?
Now, Esther's, you've kind of grounded me because I might have just given it an unreasonably high rating.
I'm so glad we asked you first instead of you saying it third, because I was going to go way higher than
Same.
1.
And now I'm like, you know what? She's right. Yeah, she's right. We need this objectivity. We need people like you to come in and be like, no, it was terrible. Because for us, we're like, well, it wasn't like, for us, it's like, well, it wasn't grueling and it didn't make us want to vomit. And like,
it was better than so many of the like Devil's Due and all like the found footage ones where nothing happened.
Exactly.
Stuff happened. It wasn't good stuff, but stuff happened.
And again, my base is that a few years ago, I clung on to this, maybe even 3 years ago, we watched Sex and the City 2, and it was 2.5 hours long and nothing happened. And for some reason, it made me want to strangle myself. And so I didn't want to strangle myself in this film. But again, my standards are dropping. So that...
Because you hated it because it was white feminism embodied. It was like lightly racist and really boring for 2 hours and 40 minutes. It was just not good.
All these people in Abu Dhabi being like, we get you, we like fashion too. And then from under their kneecaps, they've got like little Prada bags. And you're like, this isn't as like feminist as you think it is.
There's the scene where Sarah Jessica Parker unironically sadly looks at a woman in a kneecap and goes, oh, it just feels so bad for her. And we're meant to go, yeah, me too. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, man, come on.
Yeah, it's pretty insensitive. Look, no, Esther, you're right. I can't give it what I was going to give it. It's not good.
What were you going to give it?
Look, I was probably going to go for I was probably going to go for a 3.5.
Okay.
And that is too generous, isn't it? It's too generous.
Well,
because I was just thinking, I'm like, it's lower than IMDb, but it wasn't too long. And as you say, I liked the whole like sea pirates book mystery going on. It just got worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
But there was lots of bits of it that I thought were enjoyable. Like we've watched a lot of shit over the last 3 years, and this really in comparison should be a lot higher.
Yeah.
Like this is better than a lot of the found footage films we watched 2 years ago. This is better than Sex and the City 2.
It is.
Really?
No, you know what? 3.5.
Yeah.
Go with your
Yeah,
gut? Okay.
Well, you know what? I agree with you, but at the same time, all of the interesting bits weren't originally written by them. It was by John Carpenter and Deborah Hill. So
This
for that,
is
I'm
true.
going to knock it down to like a 2.5. It
a good
meets.
point.
I give like 2 as a flat line for if it resembles a movie, it's at least a 2. And this was a movie.
No, you're so. I'm going to go down to a 3. 3.5.
That's too late. You already said it. It's too late. Sorry. It's locked in. It's a 3.5.
Okay.
Well, that was our ratings, but you can find us on social media. You can find us on Twitter at RateDescendPod, on TikTok at RatingDescending, or you can email us at ratingdescending@gmail.com. Please do. I love the emails.
We're also on YouTube at the moment, so you can find us at Rating Descending on YouTube. Very exciting. We're getting our stuff set up there.
Yeah. Or you can find me on social media, on our personal social media at Instagram and Twitter at michelle.stclair. Also, go check out, I've plugged many, many things before, but in particular, go check out No Ordinary Love on YouTube at No Ordinary Love Series.
Yes.
And Esther.
No Ordinary Love web series.
Yeah, take it away. Where can we find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Esther Fwati. Yes, you can find our web series, No Ordinary Love, on YouTube and TikTok. TikTok's a great one. We've got some cool snippets on there.
Oh, yeah, of course.
At No Ordinary Love series as well.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And please don't forget to leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. It really makes a difference.
Yeah. Well, it's been lovely getting to talk to you, Esther, and getting like both having you on the podcast and also just like getting to catch up again and talk.
Yes. Oh my gosh, it's been a while. So this was fun, and this was a good pick. This movie, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, for sure.
I think so. I think it was a good pick at the end. But hey, that was The Fog. Abby, what are we watching next week?
Next week, we are watching The Room.
Yes!
The best, worst film ever. That's huge.
Yeah.
Huge. And it's probably going to be a two-parter because how can we fit it all into one?
Yeah, we're going to do it as a two-parter. Well, we're going to be recording it on my birthday. This episode is coming out on my birthday. Also, that means Merry Christmas to everyone, or our Happy Holidays for any other celebrations you have. And then we'll be doing The Room over the New Year's. Fuck yeah, I'm so fucking excited.
Great start to the year. But thank you so much for joining us. It was amazing to meet you as well.
Nice to meet you too. I really enjoyed your sorry, your new weapon. But
yes. Again, I
what was it called?
It's like a breast enhancement.
Yeah, the
pad.
breast enhancement.
Yeah. A breast pad. Yeah.
It's your boob gun.
It's my sweaty little silicone boob pad.
Yes.
Throwing at men's faces.
Slap out your fake tit at people.
Yeah, you gotta just occasionally pop a tit pad.
We gotta go.